Panama is bigger in terms of its impact to global trade than South America. Panama is the door, is the window to global trade for the Americas. So Panama is very, very muy importante, very, very important. So we need to look at what's happening for the future. As I said before, the canal has got wider, has got deeper, can carry more vessels. But what's happening? We're seeing less vessels. Less vessels because the carriers are cooperating to fill bigger vessels. The volumes are not increasing, and so we see a problem. And that's why the tolls from the canal are not in line with the expectations. But again, the expansion of the canal really does stamp the footprint on the world that Panama is open for business and Panama is the connector to the world. So the Panama Canal changes the game. But the game changer, the catalyst of that, is that the business hasn't changed. But more importantly, if you've got a vessel connecting Asian production with US consumers that's big enough to go through the canal now, that doesn't have to unload its containers like it didn't before, it's now changed the game. So that the cargo can come all the way from Singapore to Miami, to New York, to Charleston, to Canada, without coming off the vessel. So from a port operator's perspective, there are less opportunities. And that's an important point. There is an upside. What we see regionally is that the business is growing. The business is growing in Central America. The business of reefers is growing. The business is growing. So Panama is growing by about 5, 6, 7% a year. So is Costa Rica. Venezuela's going backwards. Colombia's growing quite fast. So people talk about, Cartagena or Buenaventura is stealing our cargo. It's not the case. Their domestic growth in terms of their exports and their imports is probably growing by about 5, 6, 7%. That's what we're seeing in terms of Cartagena, Buenaventura and other places like that. But the impact of the regional growth does not offset the changes in pattern on the world stage. The major connections from Asia to the US are down. The local cargo is growing by a little bit. But you can see there that cargo to and from Panama makes up for 9-10% of all the containers that go through the port. So the ports in Panama are heavily dependent on transshipment business. Transshipment business which is not necessarily growing to the same point. Importantly, if you've got a big vessel coming from Asia and it's going through the Panama Canal and it's going to the US East Coast, Balboa, PSA, Corazon, we're all better placed than going to Colombia. If the vessel has to go on a detour to Colombia, it's going 2 days in the wrong direction if it wants to go to the US East Coast. And that's an important factor. We are not, in Panama, losing any business to Buenaventura. And if we talk about Cartagena, Cartagena's in the Atlantic section. Cartagena is competing with Cristóbal, with MIT, with CCT, with Kingston, with Bahamas. It's a different market. So the Pacific market, we can't be any better placed. Panama, geographically, is here for a reason. Our growth as a country is for a reason. Nicaragua couldn't make it work. All of the other plans to build canals in Central America have not taken off. The natural route, the natural trading route is the Panama Canal. And that's why Panama, that's why we're all sitting here, we're driving cars, we're using telephones. That's why we enjoy our lifestyle here. Because Panama has natural geographic advantage, which gives a better standard of living for most of us. which creates workplace opportunities for the 5,000 people outside,